What's going on out there, all you sexy ladies? Once again, I'm Neff from Nev's Tech Bits, and today I want to go through a review of the first 12 issues and then some of Alpha Flight. As a Canadian geek, it is my patriotic duty to go through this comic that represents Canada as written by Americans and see how it actually is. This is the redemption tour of the Alpha Flight. They first showed up in Marvel X-Men as antagonists when they popped up and tried to get Wolverine back to the Alpha Flight by any means necessary, which never freaking works, and I don't understand why they'd write them that way, because I don't know, it doesn't seem very Canadian. And anyways, if you're hanging out in Canada and you haven't gone through legally, you'll probably get someone kicking your butt anyway. So X-Men, make sure you cross at the border next time. So, here we have Alpha Flight being douchebags as usual. One side, heroes, this is a job only we can handle. Like, really, as a Canadian, do you think there's any job that these individuals can't handle that the Canadians have to? Like, seriously. Anyways, let's just get into this. The art is beautiful. It's to die for. Magnifique. Oui, oui. So at the top, you see Alpha Flight. In the middle, you see Beta. And then at the bottom, you see Gamma. Now, I want to go through Beta. We get Flashback, which is a guy that can bring himself from the future to the past in order to fight. He has no other special powers than that. He's basically like a multiple man that if you kill one of them, the future selves after that continue to die. And then this is the first appearance of Wild Child. And man, I love Wild Child from the Age of Apocalypse. He was on a string, he was on a chain from Sabretooth, who was a good guy in that universe. Man, I love those alternate universe kind of things where the bad guys are good just because of a little twist of fate. And I love the art in this. The art in this is so much better than most comics created these days. The proportions are always good. I'm sure we all remember that picture of Captain America where his chest goes out one way and his face goes out another. Man, that was just bad. Anyways, the bad guys here are also very interesting. So, Brother Voodoo here, whatever you want to call him, just takes his foot, whoosh, he goes all around, and he makes some big crazy thing that turns out to be the bad guy. Nope, keep going. Man, I love the advertisements in these old comics too. But seriously, look at that art. The proportions, they nail them every time. It's very good. You can't ask for anything more than that. The artist is very well known. Very well known. Anyways, here we go. But he sacrifices himself. And then the thing that he outlined comes from the grave. Rise from your grave. And it seems to be this elemental. So like Fing Fang Foom, this is Tundra. Like Fing Fang Foom and other giant creatures are actually creatures that the Earth created to protect itself from the humans on top. But I don't think that this is one of those kinds of things. We get North Star and his sister. Now, we get a lot of character development within this comic book series that I just like, yeah, you know, you're forwarding the story, you're developing the characters. The characters don't all like each other, but still, this story it's just not interesting. It's like a bunch of douchebags just fighting each other. And I don't think the X-Men ever had to run into anything like that. It's like you're either a mutant or you weren't. But man, the art, look at that malevolence. Look at that. Oh man, just So they start taking chunks out of this big guy. By the way, lots of spoilers here. I'm going to assume that you're not going to be reading this. I'm just going to run you through a summary of the first 12 issues, basically. And they beat Tundra. Good guys win, bad guys lose. And as always, Canada/England prevails. Alpha Flight, issue 2. Marina, who eventually gets married to the Submariner in this series. I wonder how long that lasts for. Turns evil, because it turns out that the person, or the alien creatures that bore her, that gave birth to her, are calling her home, and this is one of the generic bad guys. The Master. They have such simple, generic names for these bad guys. Marina, yep. So she goes under the knife here, and then how these issues work is you get a little bit of a story, and then at the end you get a little bit of an origin story, and that's the first weapon, Alpha, or Guardian, or whatever you want to call them. So the Weapon X project was in Canada, I believe, and then after it disbanded, everything went to Department H. Department H closes down. This is Weapon Alpha / like, really, do you think this guy would go up against Wolverine? He'd be in ribbons, let's face it. Let's face it. Anyways, issue 3, once again, very nice artwork. Very nice artwork. I gotta say, the proportions are always good. Comic book artists these days could really learn a lot from this particular artist. Is it O'Neill? I forget exactly who it is. Yeah, oh wait, that's it's more colorist. Story and art by John Byrne. He did the story and the art. Come on, I feel bad for downing the way the story goes. It's just a bunch of character development for the most part. And I'm also actually, before I get on to that, I should say he's a great artist and an okay writer. He didn't do anything bad. It just seems so full of character development. But stuff like this, magnifique, just really good job. Really, really, really good job. I'm very pleased with this gentleman's work. Excuse me, I got a cold. Anyway, so we get the master here. He's doing his stuff to this Marina chick, and then he gives the origin story about what's going on. He's like, oh yes, in Southeast Asia, I got kicked out of my tribe. And then I found this really weird thingy, and it got me, and it made me who I am today. And that's basically all we get there. And then, of course, at the end, we get a little bit more of the origin story. We go into the next issue, and we get Submariner bringing Susan Storm to this location. Once again, a little bit of character development. Now, North Star and his sister, the thing they're going through is his sister right now has dual personalities. If her hair's down, she's one person. If her hair's up, she's another one. And they're trying to figure that one out. Good guys win, bad guys lose, England prevails, Popeye the Sailor Man, etc., etc. Beautiful art. Just freaking beautiful. I can't get over the art. It's just classic. If there's one reason to have Alpha Flight in your collection, it's because you found them in a bunch of 50 center piles, and because you like the art. But seriously, I can't get over how great the art is. In just the way that it doesn't screw up. I mean, the proportions are just, they're just so nice. Now, here they're winning, etc., etc. Now, one problem you run into, a lot of artists will bring up Raphael, for example. The artist Raphael, he was actually allowed to cut people open and see what the muscles are, and then draw or create art based off of what he sees. But he knew the body so well because he was allowed to cut into the body. But artists who aren't as talented as him will try to make the muscles. They'll try to draw the muscles together, and then once you get the whole picture, once you get all the muscles together, it looks like one heaping mass of muscles that are just bulging off in different directions. But this guy really pulls it off everywhere. And he doesn't use any tricks like, for example, copying and pasting, like you see these days. A lot more. I'm just skipping this one because this one's just character development. There's a lot of individual issues that are just, yeah, character development for Marina, for Puck, for What's Your Pickle, for these guys and all that stuff. Like, I don't want character development. I want a story. I want a fight. I want an issue. I want a conflict that needs to be resolved. I want a conflict with nuance in it, kind of thing. And maybe they just weren't into that back in the 80s. Anyways, Snowblind. Very good. Snowblind, Snowbird. It's a story about her. And she has to fight a metaphysical... Oh, yeah, it's another thing. They fight a lot of Canadian metaphysical entities within this universe, which is really nice. And once again, the artist really knows how to pull this stuff off. Even if you don't like the story, the art is just so nice. Gotta say. And okay, so in Canada, if you're in a dry desert area, then you know what a sandstorm is like, right? Well, if you are in a snowy area, it's kind of like the same thing. The snow, like the sand, really light, and if you get wind, then the snow's just blowing everywhere and you can't see a darn thing. And that's what happens in these whiteout situations. So here she's fighting, you kind of get an idea what's going on. And then all of a sudden, blam, she brings a cliff down on this bad guy. And then she wins, and the riggers are like, oh, what's going on? She's like, stuff happened. Okay. And then, of course, we get more origin stories in the back, more advertisements like I love. Once again, beautiful art. I really like this art. Gotta respect that artist. So, I'm just going to skip these two comics because basically they're investigating about North Star and his sister. So once again, hair up, one person, hair down, quite a different. They're investigating a murder. But actually, I should open this up and show you. Oh, check it out. Check it out, check it out, check it out. Death makes an appearance as a female. Very good. Very good. So it's interesting that they bring in characters from other places, but it doesn't seem like anything that they have in here gets taken out to the Marvel Universe in any place else. Like the aliens in here, I never see the aliens that are in these previous issues, the Masters aliens being represented later on, even in, geez, what was it? The Crusade, the big crossover where they're dealing with universal entities, and the Phalanx was out there. Everyone was out there. It's amazing they don't use these guys more often. Talking about the oh, this is the Nemesis. That's the Nemesis. She looks like Spider-Man, eh? It's the Nemesis. Anyway, that's about all that's interesting in these two issues. But once again, that art is just so good. Alpha Flight, issue 9. So they think that Ben Grimm pops up, like, oh, we're catching Ben Grimm. That guy kind of looks like Ultron to me. Catching Ben Grimm. And Ben Grimm seems to come down through the satellite. So I know what Sasquatch is going to do. Sasquatch is taking him home to bed. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, Bobby. Anyways, it turns out it's not really Ben Grimm. Who could it be? Who could it be? It's the Super Skrull. So honestly, I didn't know the Super Skrull could turn himself into like just Ben Grimm or just Johnny Storm. But then again, he's a Skrull. That's what they do, right? They take over people's bodies. They act like them. It's just how it goes. And of course, we get more character development. I'm not a big fan of the character development, but the art's good. The story's pretty good. Like the story doesn't conflict with itself. So I can't complain about the story at all. Anyways, issue 10. The art continues to be very good. And Sasquatch, no longer Sasquatch at this moment, fights with the Super Skrull. And once again, check out that art. I am really pleased with that stuff. They have a fight. Bad guy wins. And he's like, I am taking over your mind and you will do whatever I say. And this guy's like, yeah, okay, I'll do whatever you say. And he gets into a story about how he fought Spider-Man, Mrs. Fantastic, or Miss Marvel, and all these people. And he just wants to get home. He's really sick. He's really sick. And Sasquatch is like, yeah, I'll help you out with that, no problem. So Sasquatch helps him out, acting like he's under control, but he's really not. And then last second, when Super Skrull's not thinking about it, Sasquatch throws him in and scatters his being all over the universe. But of course he gets back together because nobody ever dies in Marvel Comics. Let's face it. Let's face it. There is no consequence to death in Marvel Comics because everyone just gets brought back. DC Comics too. What am I saying? So this is where things start getting really interesting because we're about issue 12. And it kind of seems like if your comic book is going to do good, they'll get you to issue 12. And if it does great, you'll get even farther. Issue 11. This guy is Box. He just got no legs, but he controls a giant remote control robot that he keeps in the closet. I wonder if he's that way. Which of course is okay, especially in Canada. Nobody would even care. Wild Child. Oh, he got a smirk on his face. Love that Wild Child. Love seeing Wild Child in the wild just because he was in Age of Apocalypse. And I loved him in Age of Apocalypse. Stop with the origin stories. Stop it. Stop. Just give me the story. I don't want the origin story. Just give me the story. I want a conflict. So, next issue, we're going to get into a fight. Issue 12. Oh, double size. Very nice. Very nice. When does it get good? Blah, blah, blah. Character development. And then Alpha Flight's going to fight each other because that's what they do. This is part of the character development, I suppose. And these guys do not get along. Oh, check it out. Namor and Marina macking it. That's what I'm talking about, Bobby. Yep, here they go. They get into a big fight. Yeah, let's fight. And then, oh, we gotta help our buddy. And blam, Alpha Flight, there you are. I was wondering where you were. I was having a hard time beating these guys up myself and stuff. But hey, I'm the main character, so I guess I should do whatever I want. Anyways, a fight ensues. Turns out Wild Child has, like, claws he can scratch people with. Oh, big deal. I mentioned Wolverine. Wolverine's probably the best part of this team I ever had, let's face it. Like, seriously, let's face it. Sasquatch versus Box. And this is where things is gonna get good. The Chicky Poo starts tearing off her flesh, and she's like, I'm really a bad guy. And she's like, oh, you're really a bad guy. Yep. So, someone's taken over Box. It's not the big guy without any legs. It's Jackson. I am Jackson. And this guy's like, and Guardian's like, no, I will defeat you. And so he does. And Jackson's like, oh, I have a headache now. That's unfortunate. And now the Guardian's like, oh, I gotta take off my suit. I got my butt kicked. I gotta take it off slowly, though. One by one, piece by piece. There's a way to do this. There's a way to do this. And his girlfriend, oh, Heather, you distracted me. Oh, you've killed me, Heather. This is all your fault. I'm dead. I'm dead. And now I'm just a burning husk. But don't worry, he comes back later after they fight. The Lord of Chaos, the Master of Chaos, the Chaos King, one or the other. And nobody ever dies in Marvel Comics. There is no consequence to any of these stories. Let's face it, they can just retcon it or whatever. But now let's talk a little bit more about Beyond issue 12. Because issue 13 is really good. The Nightmare, the funeral for Mac, or whatever his name is. Check this out. Very solemn, very Nuff Said-esque. And then her husband pops out for a hug, and Wolverine's like, no, you won't hug her. He's like, oh, I'm going to get you. I will get you. And Wolverine's like, you won't get her. I need hugs first. So Wolverine gets a hug, but it's too much for him because he's never been hugged enough as a child, so he just goes down. And then it gets her, and she's like, no, but it turns out it's just a dream. Okay, very nice. Seriously, though, magnificent art. The tone in these comics is totally different from any tone that I've seen in any other comics in the recent past. And, oh, I gotta get into this one. Secret Wars tie-in. The Beyonder pops up. Alpha Flight goes to check him out. He's like, oh, what's going on here? Oh, it's something that this guy can do. I don't even think this guy's the Beyonder. He might be the Beyonder, but I don't think that he is. Anyways, that isn't the Guardian. The Guardian's still dead. That is another woman. That's the woman that tore her flesh off. Heather, I think it's called. I forget exactly. Anyways, this is my favorite part. So Wild Child gets taken up. And then it's just him and the Guardian. He's like, oh no, I don't have any special powers right now because I'm low on energy. Protect me, Flashback. And Flashback eats it. He dies. No, those are future selves of me. You've killed one, so you've killed more of me. What have you done? Man, this is a flavor that never happens anywhere else in any other comic book. Just wow, just the nuance of that one action. You knew it had to happen eventually. Like Flashback, when he signed up, he must have known that this kind of stuff was going to happen. But the fact that it was one of his friends, allies, that did it with him, this is just a flavor you don't find in anywhere but Alpha Flight, because it's like everyone is extremely expendable because they're not American or something like that. Anyways, he buys it too. And then that's it. But that's, I just love this installment because of that. I just love that installment. Anyways, this is it for me. Enough from this tech, but like, subscribe if you like this stuff. Always appreciate it. If you like this stuff, I'll do more. But man, I wanted to do a piece on Alpha Flight for so long. As a Canadian, I think I really have to get through it. But now that I've read it, I gotta say, this definitely seems like a Canadian comic made by an American with awesome art. There's nothing you can complain about with the storyline except it's too much character development. But the story checks out. The art checks out. The fact that the artist and the writer are the same people checks out. It's freaking beautiful. It's great. The story is great on its own. The proportions, the person that made these, like, everything's where it's supposed to be. What can I say? I love it. I love it, and we're blessed that we actually have this. But anyways, that's it for me. Nev from Nev's Tech. But it's like and subscribe, like this kind of stuff. Always appreciate it. And as usual, take care of each other, folks.